You are now listening to the saga of the Commodore and the Heirs by Cotton Common, Volume 1. Chapter 2, Welcome to the Mother's Mirth. Climbing out of the main deck of the Happy Hunter and into the crowded longboat below, Stokely Fruthian finds space on a middle bench surrounded by several scowling youths. Receiving a nod from the baton bearer, the massive woman grabs the oars and, without a word, commences rowing. Eyes shut, lifting his head to the afternoon sun, Stokely absorbs its heat. Sailors hail one another. Ship's bells chime out. Water splashes here and there. Salty ropes crack and creak while the cawing of gulls collectively harmonize in symphonic refrain.
Sounds like a song of victory, victory for me, me, me.
Stokely sings a little tune to himself in celebration of his departure from the stinky bowels of the Happy Hunter.
I wonder if I can find a lonesome love.
Stokely wonders as he glances around, searching for the Hunter's sister ship. With scores of vessels anchored in that area alone, identifying all but the largest out of their convoy from Prato would be challenging. The great galleons Gorgeous George, Sleeping Serpent, and Princess Pride stand out, but all the others fade into the panoramic mass of white sails, red sails, brown sails, blue sails, and brown decks, including the Love. Yawls, jolly boats, gigs, barges, cutters, and countless other smaller ships ferry items of infinite variety between the fleet of massive ocean-going vessels and the Mother's Mirth. The commercial activity of the Ouroboros Exchange Cartel's famed floating export center more closely resembles an imperial capital rather than a distant outpost thousands of ri from civilization. From a distance, the Mother resembles a small, ridiculously overpopulated barrier island, topped by the naked frame of a giant traveling circus tent. Giving lie to the illusion that she was built on solid ground, the occasional wave propels each successive section slightly upward before setting her back down again as she absorbs the ocean's perpetual pressure. Through this suspension system, with its anchors in the seafloor and elsewhere throughout the bay, the structural stability necessary for control over this crucial end of the cartel's monopoly is maintained, with the added aesthetic appeal that she appears to breathe from time to time. The pushy cawing and squawking of seagulls and other marine birds fade as the longboat progresses further. In their absence, a conspicuous silence emerges, which is punctuated suddenly by a pair of crackling drone wings. Whirr! An instant's explosion of low-pitched sonic absurdity violates the airspace not far above their heads. Along with a few of the other boys, Stokely twists around in his seat, eagerly snatching a better view.
Ooh, Jim, look, it's a thief catcher drone. He's the greatest.
The youngest of the boys informs his neighbor, tugging on his sleeve.
Aye, Birdie, we know. You told us several times.
Jem replies, snatching his sleeve away and pointing at the iridescent blue streaks streaming through the air.
But for the last time, I don't care what stories you heard or what you said, there's nothing great about that maniac Rose monsters, you dummy. You just better don't call him a dummy. Not everyone's a cake eater like you.
The filthy-faced child howls from the back bench, his voice like a feral cat Stokely had once heard in labor.
He's from the middle of nowhere. He probably never been within the degree of heaven's home. Oh, rapid fly, don't call him no dummy. Shut up, Puck. Birdie knows I didn't mean nothing by it. Ain't that right, Birdie? I like cake.
Birdie's attempt to interject goes unrecognized by the other two boys as they continue arguing. Remembering the butter bread he pilfered from the captain's quarters the night before, Stokely taps the child on the shoulder and offers a savory sweet cake bread.
Here you go. Want this? I'm not too hungry myself anyway.
Birdie's brown eyes light up as he snatches the cake from Stokely's palm as if he were afraid the offer might be rescinded. Savoring each and every morsel, taking only the tiniest of bites from the edges, he ensures every crumb finds its home inside his mouth, growling strangely the entire time.
I guess this one likes butter bread as much as I do,
Stokely notes to himself.
Whirr!
Another set of sail-sized iridescent wings buzz by, charging a circuit around the bay before heading back to the Mother and disappearing inside her honeycomb-topped tower. Stokely returns his attention to their immediate surroundings as they drift by the Mother's bustling thousand docks. The security personnel grant nary a glance as they skip the Ouroboros Exchange cartel's famously severe search and registry protocols. The only explanation the leader offers is a baton which he holds in the air as they pass, entering into the mother's Byzantine internal canals. The warehouse district, the first sight on their tour, seethes with hundreds of color-coded workers teeming out of its vast, vibrantly painted buildings. Some carry large sacks, while others labor in groups, setting crates into transport barges. Not a single teamster casts a curious eye at the dinghy as they float by. The same indifference finds repetition in the denizens of every district through which they drift until arriving at the courtyard, where the Knot children dock their little boat and wait. Stokely and several other boys stand, preparing to step out onto the dock, but one fierce glare from the woman convinces them otherwise. The large open-air Pentagon before them has been packed with hundreds of poachers, organized into two groups. Each square faces the other in conspicuous silence. The entire area shimmers with heat, skin glaring wherever exposed to the midday tropical sun.
I'm glad to see that you all have gathered so efficiently, gentlemen and ladies.
A commanding voice rings out. Only the top of his blue velvet tri-cornered hat and its three gratuitously oversized white feathers remain visible as he moves about the mass of mostly men, like a land-based bird floating atop a glistening body of human flesh.
You all, fresh off your boats. I'm sure every one of you are ready to get to work. After all, as much as I hate to admit it, it wasn't my pretty face that enticed you all these leagues. You all came here for one thing and one thing only, making a bloody fortune. Am I right? Sir, yes, sir!
Ooh, Jim. Ooh, is that the TCG? Ooh, who's that? I can't see.
Bertie asked the moment the crowd's cheers have subsided, without bothering to lower his voice.
Aye, Bertie, that's the TCG. Now shut up before that maniac notices us. Really? Yeah, really. Now shut the hell up, kid.
One of the older boys leans over and whispers furiously. Taking no apparent notice of the boys, the hat continues.
I want you, about to begin a new season, I want all of you to pay close attention to these legends over here.
The hat motions an arm toward the opposing body of poachers.
They've finished their contracts and are headed home after a short season making long money. Isn't that right, gentlemen? Sir, yes, sir!
The veteran group replies in another round of thunderous applause. The thief-catcher general floats in further amongst the squared formations. The feathers of his hat puff in the breeze as they glide along the lines of gleaming skin.
Whether you're a greenhorn, or you've survived 1 hunt, or 2 hunts, or 22 hunts, I want you to listen like your life depends on it. Is that clear? Sir, yes, sir! This is the Ouroboros Exchange Cartel. Do you know what that means? Sir, yes, sir!
They scream, stamping the deck with each syllable.
I'm sorry. I must be going hard of hearing in my old age because I can't hear ya. Ora, bora, ora, bora, ora, bora, ora, bora.
Stamping their feet until it sounds as if they're about to destroy the deck underneath them, the veteran group rings out in pride.
That's more like it.
The hat pauses for a moment and takes a few more steps down the line.
Gentlemen, many of you, no doubt, come from some shithole village in the hinterlands of one of the Chaldean kingdoms.
That's where I'm from.
Bertie informs the rest of the boys in the boat, standing and raising his hand as if the hat were referring to him personally.
Aye, Bertie, now sit the fuck back down, boy.
Jem fumes, barely restraining his voice within a whisper. Taking no notice, apparently, the hat continues with his address.
And I'm sure the only desire in your heart is to return home and buy your poor mother out of slavery. What a worthy goal that surely would be. Or maybe you're from the slums of some Achaean city, Hyperion, Adalasia, Morinth, doesn't matter which. What matters is that your only dream is to get home and buy that geisha that you always salivated over. The one that would never look in your direction for fear of acquiring the unwashable stink of your poverty. Boethius, I'm talking about you lecherous pig.
The jest sparks an amiable round of laughter from a pocket of poachers on the veteran's side. After allowing his audience a few more moments of mirth, the hat continues.
Many of you have other plans for the riches you will possess should you make it home. I make no judgments on what a man does with the gold he earns. However, there's one thing all those plans require. Do you know what that is?
The eerie silence returns. After an eternity without a response, he continues.
You must make it home. You must make it home. Make it home. Must make it home. Make it home.
The feathers flicker in the air as if they were dancing to the hat's ridiculous sing-songy sentence.
How else are you going to purchase your mother from a master or buy that untouchable geisha?
He saunters out of the crowd of newcomers and over towards the veterans, finally stopping in front of one man in particular, a portly fellow with a pot belly that protrudes in the manner of an extremely pregnant woman.
Ha! Hey, that one looked like over there. He looked like he carrying triplets.
One of the other boys points out.
You, sir, this was your first hunt with us. Is that correct?
The hat asks, jovial as a rattlesnake. Stokely and several others stand up in the boat.
Whew!
A flash of indigo iridescence buzzes the courtyard. The speed and violence of his pass startles the boys back into their seats. The poacher's colleagues step away from him in unison, placing an ocean of space between them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's my first season on the island.
The maroon poacher stammers as he glances back at the crew. The whites of his eyes telegraph the poor, pregnant man's fear from 30 yards away.
I'm sure you know where you're putting your hard-earned pay. You look like a man who knows what to do with the money he makes.
The thief-catcher general places an arm around the petrified man's shoulders.
Yes, sir.
Oh, what is it then? Spit it out.
My wife and I, we got 6 young'uns on the farm back home. My wife and I, we was gonna buy the farm back home.
The indigo blur flashes again as it buzzes a few feet lower, this time a dozen feet above the crowd. Removing his arm and taking several conspicuously oversized steps away from the worried man, the hat continues asking his questions.
Oh, a farm, is it? How nice. And where does she grow with the 6 kids on a farm back home?
Well, a bit of everything, really. We got the olives, the grapes, we got the dates, we got some peaches, we got some chickens, goats, and milk.
Oh, peaches, olives, grapes, and dates. I love dates. And how many acres is the little farm back home?
45 acres, sir.
Oh, 45 acres of dates, grapes, olives, peaches, goats, and chickens. That's a lot to look out for on your own. I'd say you're going to owe that wife of yours a little lickety old honeypot when you finally get home. What do you say?
The hat rotates full circle as he addresses the crowd.
What do you all think?
A deafening vacuum of sound inhabits the space that follows his rhetorical question.
Well, she does.
Say, what's your name, anyway?
Abruptly releasing his query, the hat changes tack and heads in a different direction.
My name is,
Your name is, Well, excuse me, but, that's gotta be the dumbest name I've ever heard in my entire life. Your daddy must have hated the sight of you to give you a name like, When you were spawned, did he take one look at you and say, I don't think that one's mine. Take him back.
The hat thrusts an imaginary object away from his torso in disgust, as if returning a turd-stained toddler to its parents.
But I tell you what, it doesn't matter what your name is. Do you know why? Because you're dead! Whew!
Absorbed into the iridescent blur as it blasts by, the body of arrives almost instantaneously at the top of a building overlooking the courtyard, 20 feet directly above their longboat. Once stationary, Stokely catches a clear reflection of his own face shining off the creature's thorax. Holding the portly poacher's head and both legs using a pair of 2-meter pincers, the blue mirror drone gorges itself on the man's torso, as if eating a living, squirming human burrito from the middle.
I'll never love burritos the same way again,
Stokely laments as, until this moment, he's always loved the conveniently tasty pastry.
Oh, God, I think I'm going to be sick.
One of the older boys warns as more noodle-like viscera splatters to the deck next to their boat, spraying a claw pattern of blood across his face.
Oh, God, it's in my mouth. Oh, God, what is this? Blah, blah.
The boy screams as he begins vomiting prodigiously.
I wonder what they're so giddy about.
Glancing away from the heaving boy, Stokely notices several members of the poacher's former crew, grinning like a herd of cats, each of whom thought they caught the canary.
I guess that's the downside of splitting shares.
The answer to that question is, obviously, you have to serve...
No!
The poacher screams in agony, still alive as the creature devours him.
Obviously, you have to...
Snatching his hat off, the thief-catcher general casts an imperious look at his giant winged agent. The drone responds by tearing its victim's head from his shoulders in a single bite and flying off, still clutching the dead man, leaking more viscera along the rooftops.
Now, where was I? Oh yes, you have to survive. But what is the key to accomplishing that important goal?
The audience remains silent.
You can start with considering the fine print. Everyone knows the penalty for peculation. It's codified into the contract you all signed. Any property or value taken off of Paralandrea without specific license from the OEC shall be considered punishable by death, post haste, paragraph 3, section 4, subsection 5, addendum 34.4323.
The thief-catcher general raises an open right hand over his head, pushing aloft a black leather pouch. It tilts off balance, drawstring sloppily untied.
And think about this, gentlemen. Anyone with proof of somebody else, Stephen, will receive a captain's share just for sharing that information. So, the moment any of you think you can get away with stealing from the OEC like up there.
The thief-catcher general motions his free hand in the direction of the poacher-laden drone, still flying into the upper reaches of the tower overhead.
Just remember, there's always an over-eager nibbler in the crew, or on the edge of the crew, or floating around like a fecal parasite on the periphery of the crew. As sure as the sun shines, they are going to realize their best bet is to turn you in. Heck, maybe it's you that's gonna turn them in. Maybe you're the overeager nibbler. Think about that, and then consider this. What you might consider, you must consider, somebody else already has considered. It's the simple logic of dirtbag human nature, really.
He begins pacing again, the pouch still perched above his head, rocking slightly with the increased momentum.
And then you've got to ask yourself another question. Are you willing to roll those dice?
The pouch rolls over in his palm until caught between index finger and thumb, spilling a trickle of black pearls. They bounce off his shoulder onto the deck, like drops of intentionally spilled milk, each worth 500 sister pieces.
Are you really willing to take that chance?
He pauses, standing still. The trickle of pearls falling down dries up for a moment.
Well, are you?
The hat asks as he begins pacing again. This time in full flow. More black pearls stream down his back by the dozens, bouncing off of planks, rolling this way and that in their return to the sea. A few poachers peek, but they all remain otherwise placid as a fortune disappears between the cracks in the deck.
I guess we know the answer to that question.